February 7th, IT Committee, 2019, 9:56. Call the roll, please.
McTaggart?
Yes.
Bowers?
Yes.
Sure?
Yes.
Stickler?
Yes.
Okay, we'll call the meeting to order. We have a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved. Second.
Seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
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 We have public comments. Hearing none. I guess we'll go to Lisa, maybe?
At 10:30, hopefully, if Michael's here, we have a meeting with the Cyber Navigator, I don't know what his actual title is, representative, I guess, from the State Board of Elections. It's the part of the last component to being in the Cyber Navigator program in order to get the money that's available to the county. Forgot to write down how much it is, but and so this part of it will be about, we're gonna talk specifically about at least the voter registration part of our office being on the Illinois Century Network, which hopefully is not a big deal. Talking to Michael a little bit about it, I believe they're gonna be able to use the cabling that's already here. So that makes it a lot, he was glad to hear about that, or that makes it a lot, maybe it was the other side, the Navigator guy that was here for the original meeting, but, so I don't know how soon all that begins, but I'm assuming that we're gonna find that out, today. I guess we've had one meeting with a preliminary Cyber Navigator guy, and he asked Michael all kinds of questions about, what we had in place so far, and it was extensive. It was a really, really extensive. Most of the things, the words that he was saying, I didn't even know what he was, the words. So it was all real technical stuff, but Michael knew all of it. So today, hopefully that'll be the completed part before we start getting the Illinois Century Network. Am I saying that right? Illinois Century, ICN? I think that's right. Illinois
Sounds
Century
right.
Network going. That's about it for me. You would talk to them about, and we've got some
Insurance.
information about cybersecurity insurance, which I was wondering about. I get stuff from different cyber programs daily about what's going on, everywhere, but it's been quiet. I don't expect really a whole lot of issues with this coming election. It's consolidated election. I don't think there'll be too many Russians worried about what's happening in Iroquois County, but 2020, another presidential election year, is going to be big, and it's easy when nothing's happening to just kind of think, we're good. But, we're not, I mean, everybody has, it's incumbent on all of us to make sure that that we're safe in every way possible, from hacking of any sort. It's not just election systems that get hacked, it's, entire counties and all of their data and everything gets lost. So, whereas to me, it's something kind of boring to talk about. I'm not an IT person. I don't like really any of it. It's floating to the top of importance. Michael, take it away.
Sorry about being
That's
late.
One thing she did mention, Lisa was talking about your meeting with the cyber navigator guy coming up, and then the other thing was the cybersecurity insurance. She was touching on that.
Yes, we talked about
need
that
to
previously.
Have some kind of a discussion about that, just to follow up on that here. Other than that, I don't think you missed much because we were holding off till you got here. So.
Yeah, no, I apologize about that. The fog.
Yep.
The fog and the train were fighting me today.
Yes.
I
You haven't been getting any more emails from me, have you?
Nope, John, thankfully I have not.
Good.
Eric, did you have anything specific or health? or
Not anything really specific. I know, I know as a county, we have quite a few tickets, in with area wide. I've got a ticket that I know I'm waiting on. It's starting to get a couple of weeks old now, if I'm not mistaken. I'm not sure how that's all triaged or anything like that, but mine's not necessarily at the top of the list, I'm sure. Other than that, I really don't have anything.
Anything for health or anything?
For the health department?
Yeah.
The 2 new tablets we did receive, Zach came in, I think it was last week. One of them we were having problems with. Zach was supposed to come back or connect with Melissa Loyet's her tablet and download some things that he wasn't able to when he was here, because I think she was absent. To my knowledge, it hasn't been done. She couldn't connect to any printers. Now, we do have admin rights, but when she went to put in the admin rights so that we could download, hook to the printers, it did not work. So, and that was as of Monday. Now, I do know Zach got back, or they called Zach again on Tuesday because we hadn't heard from him and talked to him directly. Whether that's been fixed, I do not have the answer.
I can
to
check
that.
on that. And the pins that were still out for ordering is out for shipment, so it should be coming in today or tomorrow. I was hoping they would come in today so I could grab them with me, but they should be here soon because those did not come with the laptops. But I can follow up with Melissa and Zach to make sure that's all taken care of. But so far the laptops are working well besides.
As far as I know, yes, and it was just Melissa Loy's tablet, not Kelly Ward's. Kelly has not said anything that she's having any difficulties. or
Usually that's a good
problems.
sign.
So, yeah, I think these are just minor things that just didn't get taken care of, that can be fixed relatively easily.
I'll follow up.
Do we want to talk about this insurance thing while we got the guys here, or is there something?
That's what they're waiting for.
I assume, yeah. I mean, talk about that first rather, I know Michael had some other things to discuss too, but maybe we can do that.
I received the application from Christy. I know she said that, I don't know how often you receive requests for that, so she wasn't sure how much help she would be to me to fill out the application, so I let her know that we had this meeting today, and after the meeting, I would have the application ready for Michael, and he would be able to probably help with a lot of the questions on the application.
We're seeing a lot more of it. I've had 5 fire districts be hacked. One where we actually called in forensics where they were looking to see if they got into the health records of patients that they had treated, and they had not. But we can get you a quote once we get all that information, but it is very technical, and I'm just an insurance agent.
Right.
When they start.
You're not an IT guy?
No, not at all. So that's why I think that once you get that filled out, you guys can then make a better decision.
Right. Yeah, and I was the same way. I told her there was a lot of items on there that I wouldn't, some of it I'd be able to fill out, but other stuff I wouldn't know either. So I thought today would be a good day with Michael being here that he could help fill out that application.
Yep,
So we can get
definitely.
it sent back to her right away.
Good, yep, very important, so hopefully we can get that resolved.
Do you have any idea how expensive this insurance is?
Well, like the city of Leroy, ours is about $2,300 now. Obviously, you're a county, it's a lot different, but it just depends on the safety guards that you have in place. And it sounds like you probably have a lot more than what we did at the city level. So
Depends on what you want to insure.
that's right. That's right. So we'll get you the wide range, and then you can make a choice of what you want. But there's so many different variables as far as what kind of firewalls and all of that play into it.
I mean, obviously, the question is, we get bombarded with
Oh, yeah.
having to spend money that wasn't budgeted and how we're gonna squeeze all that in and so forth. I just wanted to get some idea what we might be looking at.
And, you know, you can do everything you want, you're still gonna get hit at some point. I got a letter from the Department of Veterans Affairs. I assumed the VA was gonna be pretty secure, but they're getting in everywhere, and it doesn't matter. But it's just a matter of, can you afford to pay the insurance instead of when we do have the claim that, and it can be substantial. The fines and penalties are pretty substantial, so. But we'll get you all that information once we get the quote back, and there's a lot of companies that specialize in it. Beasley is one that I'm sure we'll get a quote back from, but we'll quote several and see what we get back for it.
What do you see? I mean, what would you think? Michael, do you know anything about what other places you guys deal with and stuff and the cost and what you, I mean, ballpark rough?
Yeah, we haven't dealt with cybersecurity insurance. We work with some banks that have that, but the banks go through their insurance guide, and we haven't been involved in the past, so I'm not sure.
Okay.
I know, Macoupin County is the one that, you know, always comes to my mind, and that was the emergency meeting that I went to in Champaign. They were, really badly hacked, and it came in through their assessment office, but affected obviously other offices as well. All of their computers were so badly infected by whatever it was that got in, they were just trash. So she was the one that in this meeting, she talked quite a bit, that clerk, I'm sorry, county clerk there, about the importance of, they did not have cyber insurance, or maybe she said they did, I'm sorry, I don't remember whether they did or not.
It was important.
Yes, it was important, exactly. It was a very big point that she wanted to make, a very strong point that she wanted to make. That's why I keep asking about it. I didn't have any idea about cost or anything, but.
So the insurance would cover any equipment that's damaged?
It can cover-
What about any liability?
Liability, some of the fines and getting it restored, and the equipment, all of that can be included. So it can, you're talking thousands and thousands of dollars and into the hundreds of thousands if you start getting penalties where personal information got hacked. And, you know, all the health records get out there for the county. That could be a very costly, bad day. So, yeah.
Where do the fines, who issues the fines?
Government.
Because you let it happen.
Some of our data backup
Well,
things, we
yeah, I'd be
need
interested.
to evaluate how much of that we need, because we do have some safeguards in place just with the infrastructure.
Yeah,
What we do need and what we don't need, or where we're at risk more that we need to pay for.
Yeah, well, and like one of our claims was just a laptop, but at fire chief's email, he opened up an email and it was ransomware. They had a good enough backup. They wiped the hard drive and just started over but I've heard of a sheriff's department that got hacked and they paid the ransom to release the data because it was that critical. And I think
and
that's.
they probably didn't have backups.
They didn't have good backup. So that's key. And all that plays into the premium determination is what kind of systems are in place.
So if a county doesn't have backups, their premiums are gonna be higher.
A lot higher, or maybe not even give an offer.
Mhm.
And I've seen that where they don't have the systems in place, they're not even gonna offer the insurance.
So that's a part of the application
Yeah.
process. So just like life insurance, if you're going skydiving, your premium's gonna
That's
be
gonna be a
higher.
problem, that's right.
Well, the county follows most of the best practices, so,
Okay.
so we're not skydiving here,
Yeah, no, and that's important. But again, I can't,
but you have to fill all that up.
you have to fill it out, and then the actuaries that do all that will get you the determination on the premium. And then we can give different levels of, do we wanna cover this amount? Do we want 5 million? Do we want 2 million? You know,
Just like car insurance.
that's right.
We just need to get a little information ahead of
Yeah.
time, maybe to get us thinking in the right direction and a little bit to know what to expect.
I mean,
Well, it sounds like you're on
realistically,
the-
can we do this by next month, or is it a longer process than that?
If we have the application, I think we can get it by next month, realistically.
And if you have any questions on that,
We can aim to get that
let us
done.
know. And we'll take care of it.
Just by way of information, our meetings next month occur on the same date as this month. There's only
Okay.
28 days in this month, so all the dates roll over the
Okay.
same. So for planning purposes, that's what we're looking at.
No fog though next month.
That's right. We had to talk, but that's not gonna happen. All right,
Okay,
Thank you,
thank
guys.
you.
Thanks, Greg.
okay.
Thank you.
Yes,
Just one more thought while we're talking about the cyber insurance, cybersecurity insurance. You know, part of this cyber navigator program is in order to get this money. I don't know if that's something that money can be spent on.
okay,
That's a good
So
question.
I can find out though.
that'd be a good question for your meeting. That'll all factor into what
Yep.
protection we do need and what funds we need and stuff. So
That grant is just a one-time deal.
It is,
No.
yeah.
And
For
Well,
some things,
For some things, yeah, the
some
Illinois,
things are reoccurring.
the Illinois Century Network connection part, is, as far as it relates to voter registration systems, was it 5 years, 10 years? They've
5
agreed to
sounds right.
something,
Yeah.
to continue to pay it, but yes, the grant right now is,
There's a one-time payout amount, and then there's a recurring, I think up to 5 years. At least that's the promise is 5 years. They're hoping to have it go longer.
Okay.
I think that's specifically for the ICN internet connection,
right.
that ongoing,
But that's a good
grant.
question, I can find out maybe from the State Board of Elections if there's gonna be money, each year for it, or this is it.
And
Well,
since we're,
if there's money available to cover it even for the first year, that at least gives us an opportunity to budget for it in the coming year.
Yep.
Which
That would help.
is a help.
So all I have to do is send an email to somebody at the State Board of Elections, and they'll get right back to me about whether or not that's something that's covered, because they're very specific about that, so that won't be difficult to find out.
and then since we're talking about the cybersecurity grant, I talked to ICN, previous month. They are actually working in, conjunction with the grant, to restructure their pricing, so they weren't able to give me pricing on their services, because that's one of the things we talked about as an action point, is get pricing for that, see how much it would be. And they don't have it yet because they're going to incorporate that grant money into their quote or their pricing costs. So ICN is working directly with the state to update pricing to match.
When you say update pricing, you mean they're gonna increase the net revenue to them?
That's a possibility. Well, your grants money's coming in, we're gonna charge more. No, I think they're gonna bundle the grant in with it, so it'll just be, flat. I'm just imagining, but I'm imagining that they're gonna, incorporate the grant money, and then whatever doesn't get covered with the grant, that's the pricing they're gonna give us. But
Well,
I'm just guessing at this point.
obviously, if it winds up costing us less money, that's great, but
Yeah, it
typically,
should be less.
typically these things may go the other way, and I think, again,
Never know.
when we don't have stuff budgeted.
Yeah.
It's good to know what we're up against.
Yep, and then, with the ICN connection, I talked to Eric and I talked to ICN. So there is a current ICN connection right now for 911 for the leads, connectivity between the sheriff's department. So they do already have that equipment here in the office. They use AT&T lines, as their connectivity method. So whenever we get pricing, the actual installation will be simplified because there's already equipment on hand. So basically they would add to what they have here on site already, and then add another connection for the county clerk and elections traffic. So
That comes out of Eric's.
again, that doesn't say it's going to be less expensive, more expensive, but just more information about it.
Okay.
Okay, well, we're gonna add on this insurance stuff, we'll put that on the agenda for next month, that we need to get clear on that. Hopefully those guys will have us quotes back, so we need to work with them to make sure we get all that taken care of and all the other little pieces on the cybersecurity insurance. And I guess whatever else you had, Michael.
I have a list of things that we could talk about, and since I'm late, we don't have to go over them all this month, and maybe go over some of them next month
That's fine.
when we have more time.
These
So,
things most important.
so I can point out some key ones.
Next month, the meeting starts at 9:00.
Just tell me that, and I'll be here at 9:15. The county started the email security awareness almost 2 months ago. We have a good amount of data there. That's something that we can generate a report with, and maybe in a closed meeting, you guys can review. The county's not 100%, but it's not horrible. I think we're at 95%. So 95% of the county employees have not clicked on the phony emails, but there were some clickers, so we can go over that. I'm assuming that should probably be a closed discussion. But
Maybe we should put that, we'll just do that next month and put that on the agenda, and we'll have a closed session
Yeah.
for that.
so we can discuss the report and discuss if the county wants to do anything in addition to what we have, like
Okay.
special training for maybe some clickers.
And that is absolutely covered under I can definitely use this,
Money.
grant money for that.
And again, the problem with hackers and cybersecurity is it only takes one person. So that's why we have to stay on top of it. That's
Yeah.
why we have this.
Yeah, and training is really important.
And again, along with that tool, departments can start using this. We send out an email to department heads that they can start using this tool, just as a reminder that that's there for their use.
Hey, Michael.
Yeah.
Will a report be generated for those that we did find clickers to the department heads, so we can take a look?
The department heads have logins into the system to check their own department, and we can assist them with training. And
I know I only have one person that actually has their own email address, otherwise we have a generalized login.
Mhm.
So that could cause some issues for me, and I don't know if that's
You
necessarily
wouldn't
how.
know. Yeah, and I don't know if that one was one of the clickers. Probably not.
I'm hoping not,
yeah.
but hope in one hand.
Yeah, we can help with that. And then, so the security grant meetings today to go over some things with the interview from last time. And then after that, we have a meeting about the website redesign at 11:30 with some department heads to get pricing on what that would be to add more security and do a general update for the county website. So that's going to be happening today. Eric and I were talking more about security and potential things that can be added. There's a security and monitoring service that can be added to the county. When Rusty was here, the previous IT project lead, they were looking into some options but nothing was finalized. So we can talk more about that maybe next month as something the county could add to add more security. He was just talking about when a fire department got hacked and they had to do forensics on tracking down where the hacker got. A security monitoring and logging service would help speed that up and make sure that information is on hand if there was a hack and you had to do forensics or review of what happened on the network.
Can we, if we can get this, whatever the quotes are, and, okay, if we need this or need this covered versus what we need, what we don't, I think we need to get it to Michael as early as possible on our options, and then what you're talking about right here, like,
Yeah.
okay,
Because they
is
might,
it worth us implementing this into our systems?
Or
Or
just taking
since we're gonna pay insurance on it and pay a premium on it, the cost of the premium is more reasonable than
Yep.
investing in the infrastructure ourselves, and we're still kind of covered
Yeah.
through insurance rather than the infrastructure on something like what you're talking about. And if you can put together something to weigh the different options of, okay, we probably definitely need this kind of insurance coverage because we just do. This one was an option, or we could do this to our own infrastructure and we're covered. Like, for example, the backups. We have a good backup system so that we can, for the most part, wipe anybody clean and get them back where they were. We probably don't, I'm guessing, we probably don't need, I would hope, very much insurance coverage, if any at all, for that. But I think we need to get whatever these quotes are to you, and then if you can put something together, okay, here's where we're at versus
Right.
what are our options? Either we buy the insurance or we.
If there's ways to avoid having to ever use the insurance, though,
Right.
it's so much better. I mean, it's
But
like, you
I
don't want
I
your
agree,
house
but
to
there's a
burn down.
balance.
It's
I mean,
great.
It's a balance.
It's a balance
Well, I
of,
think
if the risk is, if the cost to put in this
it's
is
10,000.
let's just say 20 grand and the insurance policy's $1,000 a year, and we never have to update that, and because undoubtedly we pay 20 grand to do whatever, then it will phase out over a 2-3 year period like everything in IT does, and maybe paying $1,000 is a cheaper option, you know.
Or pay $1,000 until it can be budgeted.
Or that, I mean, yeah, so we need to understand that there's some trade-offs there of what's worth us investing in versus insuring.
And another thing could be is if we add a $1,000 service, does that knock off $2,000 for an insurance cost? So
Right,
it could be
or
that
that.
as well.
And that as well, yeah, if we do a couple things, will that get rid of,
And I would say-
lower our premiums or whatever?
I
There
would
needs
say
to be
like
some, there has to be some kind of an analysis of
Putting
this.
a car alarm on your car, you get a $10
Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
deduction.
I would say you're wise in your thought process there. The only thing that I would add to that is sometimes prevention is your best measure.
Oh,
It's
agreed.
kind of like going to the doctor, you can have your annual health visits, sometimes making sure that you can put as much preventative in place first will offset what you're.
Absolutely, because you can't insure the nightmare that it's gonna be.
But
100% agree, but it's about like having earthquake insurance.
Right.
You know, like, there's that situation where, okay, there are things we can do preventative, and
Yeah.
the chances of us having a hurricane here, probably pretty small. We probably
Yeah.
don't need to have a prevention policy in place, but might not hurt if it did somehow hit us to have a $10 insurance policy.
We do have earthquakes. though.
Well, I mean, the ones where somebody falls in a hole or something.
And he was talking about fines as well. Again, I'm not an expert on the fines at all, but the way I imagine it is if we get hacked, but we're doing everything we should be, I'm expecting, the fines would be different if we weren't doing anything at all.
Sure.
So that's something to take into account as well.
I guess the moral of the story is there's a lot of, it's not as simple as getting a policy and yep, okay, pay $1,000 or whatever the number
Exactly.
is. We need to have you kind of evaluating all those things, and I agree, we need to,
Yep.
prevention is key, and we need to do what's necessary, and I think
But it
this
needs to be
committee and
reasonable.
what the committee before us did a lot to put a lot of things in place, and we need to keep working at that, but we need to weigh all the options.
I think the point that Greg made too is something that we need to keep in the forefront of our minds, and that is that we're gonna be hacked no
Yeah,
matter what we do.
for sure.
I mean, there's no reason to believe that any prevention is gonna be 100%.
Sure.
But nevertheless, we need to, like you said, we need to weigh all these things, I think, and we're gonna do our due diligence, and that sounds like that's the direction we're headed, so I think that's a good thing.
Yeah, we're not opening the doors for hackers, but we understand that that's a realistic
The hackers become more
action.
expertise at it.
If you take a flu shot, you don't expect to not get the flu, but you're less likely to get the flu. And then we talked in the past about updating for in January 2020, a lot of the Microsoft licenses do expire. The department's been really good about replacing workstations to get ahead of that. There's some servers and the email server that we need to look at replacing this year if possible. But we can, if there's any questions about that today, we can cover that, or we can talk more in depth next time around on that.
I think one of the things we talked about in the finance committee right before this is that what I want to start doing, and I know Anita and Troy and everybody we have a list somewhere. I'm sure I got a copy if I can pick it up, but these 5-year plans
Yep.
or whatever, maybe if you can, I told people in the finance committee for the sheriff and people like that, not IT issues, that we need to start looking at that and getting that updated. So maybe we can, whether it's next month or if the agenda's getting too long, but we need to get,
Yeah, I think.
we need to start looking at those things and, okay, what are these other items? And then when we bring in the insurance, there's a, it may not happen all in one day, but we need to incorporate all those
They
things.
need to get going for that.
Okay.
10:30.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
So
I
we
do, I
better-
mean, go ahead and finish or
We'll
whatever,
finish
and
up.
then the guy is here, so
I'll
I'm gonna
come
go
right
down.
over.
Okay, thanks.
And,
Like I said, I
yeah,
don't know that all that, probably the insurance thing to me is the most pressing issue, and making sure we understand all the angles and what we can be doing to help with that and prevention, like Eric had pointed out, and figuring out what we need to do so we can get a policy in place, but we need to start, if it's not next month, the next month, in April, start thinking about what
start
that
putting-
plan is, and okay, we got these licenses and things that we need to update and whatever else it might be.
Yeah, I believe in October, November, we went over those expenses for this upcoming year. And we can, review it and refresh it.
The idea is we'll start the budget process in June sometime. And so I think we start talking about these bigger ticket items, not in April, let's say.
Yep.
And we get that conversation going now because those are the big dollar ones that there's probably more decision making than how much we're gonna pay on pencils next year. You know, I mean, there are some options and that are discussions that need to be had, and the earlier we start having them, hopefully the better, so we can get them in the budget and it's not a last minute thing.
Sounds good, yeah.
But
That's all I had.
you think okay?
Priority thing?
Yep. Well, then we'll add those things to the agenda. Unless there's anything else, we'll close up so you guys can make your meeting.
I think it might be helpful if the things that Michael thinks we need to be talking about at these meetings, if he could get that information in earlier
Yeah.
so we could get them on the agenda.
Sure.
That way the committee members can see what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Maybe be a little better prepared.
Amanda normally calls me at the beginning of the week, and says, okay, well, we need to put it on the agenda. What would probably be better is, let's make sure, or send an email or something so that your input probably has way more say than what my input does.
Right, and I'm just consultant, we're just providing services for
Sure.
the county, so I might have some ideas and you'll say,
Yeah.
no, I don't.
Well, and that's
we don't
fine,
need
I
to
think,
talk about
but it'd be good to talk about it before we get here and
Right.
have that more clear.
Not only that, the things that we have on the agenda, if we decide not to talk about them, we can just
Push them
not
back
do
for
that.
another time.
Yeah.
I mean, but if they're not on the agenda, and we wanted to take action on them, then we can't.
Yep.
So that's the benefit of getting it on there.
Definitely.
But I do think we gotta get that and give him enough, hopefully, work with the insurance company, give him enough time to prepare something, so they're not presenting it to you next month when we all get here, and that's the first you've seen of it, and then it just keeps lingering on.
And then we're gonna push it back another.
Yeah, we need to
How long-
ideally take action on it.
Yeah, how long is it gonna take to get the application put together?
They're doing it today. I don't know, is it really long, or is it?
I don't think it's a long application, no,
Okay.
it's not a long application.
I'd say if we can get it to them here today or first thing in the morning, that would be ideal, and hopefully get the process going, so. Okay, is there any old business other than what we've talked about? New business? Motion to adjourn.
Yeah.
Second, all in favor? Aye.